Hi there, and welcome to the very first episode of the Make Art, Don't Starve podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey.
And I'm your other host, Al.
Al, I reached out to you a couple of months ago just to make another art YouTuber friend, and now we're starting a podcast. Pretty crazy.
It is crazy. Time goes so fast.
It really does. I had this podcast originally over my Patreon, and it was just me, and then I was like, I want someone else. And so I started making friends with the community, and then, you're really cool, and I like you a lot, and we're pals, really cool. We're buds, we're friends.
We've had already, even without knowing that we were going to do a podcast, we've had really good conversations about stuff.
Yeah, even before we started airing, we were talking about sponsors and getting lowballed and stuff. But before we get into that, that's a little bit of a preview. We will rehash that discussion later.
Yes.
But first, I think it's good to sort of introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about kind of how we started. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I guess I'll actually introduce myself. So I'm Al. I'm 23. I live in Florida with my parents. Super fun. And I've been doing art my whole life. It runs in my family. And I never really thought of it as a career option because most artists we're told that you won't make money, that you shouldn't, pursue that. And so even though I was absolutely so fun, I was really passionate about it. And my parents were great. They were super supportive. They invested in art lessons for me, and it was always super encouraged. But in terms of it being a career, I'm sure they would have supported me if I wanted to, but society's hey, you'll die. So I didn't. And I went to Virginia Tech for neuroscience, and I was an EMT. I thought I was going to go into the medical field. And I think my sophomore year of college, I started an Instagram for my art because I wanted to just get better, and I wanted something to motivate me because I knew I wouldn't do it unless I had something to keep me on track. And I wanted to get better, and I got a lot of followers for some reason pretty quickly. It grew, and from there opportunities kept getting handed to me, and I realized wow, this is an option for me. This is something that I could take seriously and do. So over the years I started taking it more and more seriously, and now I'm here. Now I consider this my full-time job, and I don't make that much money from it, but I'm getting there. It's getting better every year.
Yes, absolutely. It's such a work in progress. I sort of we have very similar backstories.
Mm-hmm.
Except I majored in something completely different. I majored in political science. Also grew up with that same mentality of not thinking that art was going to be a career. I wanted to be an artist growing up. I was thinking about it. So my mother is very creative, and but she's never been able to make any kind of real money from her creative practice. And my grandmother raised me, and she's very sort of STEM-y. She works a lot in finance with accounting and numbers and stuff, and so she's much more data oriented.
Right.
Which sort of comes full circle to me too, because I'm a little bit like that as well when it comes to YouTube stats and numbers and everything. But yeah, I didn't think making money as an artist was possible, and so I majored in political science. I was really passionate about it. I wanted to change the world. I was applying for jobs at the CIA, so I was yeah, I'm going to change the agency from the inside, and I'm going to be a force for good in the world. But the more that I learned about all of that stuff and the things that I was really interested in researching, which was far right, sort of the rise of all of that and everything,
mm-hmm.
and I was very interested in that as a phenomena. Because my grandmother's ex-husband was very sort of culty, which is why he's an ex-husband, and it was a really unique, not positive experience growing up in that kind of an environment, and I was just really interested in the psychology behind it. You know, how does this appeal to people? And then yeah, I was really interested in it, but researching that was not really a viable long-term thing for me to do for my mental health, and I found it really draining. And after I took an oil painting class in college, my sophomore year, I just became really interested in oil painting, and I used that as a creative outlet sort of ever since. And then I was hey, I could make a career out of this. And I started my channel in May of 2020, and now here we are, and I'm pretty close to being able to go full time with it. Have a little bit to go, fingers crossed, but my growth lately has been on the rise quite a bit, and so I'm really optimistic about sort of where I can be at the end of the year. And you're sort of that too, right? You want to make this a very concrete full-time job by the end of the year.
Yeah, ideally by the end of the year. I feel it's all in my head, but I feel I'm in a time limit here, and hopefully by the end of the calendar year, I'll be able to fully support myself and really be able to call it a job, which I don't feel is that hard.
Yeah.
On paper.
I feel there's there's only so many subscribers that you really need. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, I'm not hunting for 1 million. I'm hunting for like maybe 200K.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like that's a prime spot for artists. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many options. And like you said, and like our paths being similar, it's such a, like, I stumbled into it, and like I think you did too. Like, there's still so much to learn about like what we can do that I don't feel limited quite yet. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like there are so many options out there. Like, I haven't even launched my online shop yet, and I'm already making like, you know, a couple of $100s a month from like just this. Yeah. And like doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just like doing stuff that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. I think that really comes down to like sort of all of the income streams you can have as an artist. Like, there are so many possible routes to make money, like not just AdSense and like print sales and originals, but like Patreon and sponsorships and like starting a podcast.
Yeah, that's what's great about that's what's great about being an artist is like I've been seeing like all this stuff online about like, oh, like people are losing jobs, or, you know, the uncertainty of like different career fields. And that's what's great about this is that, first of all, we're our own boss, so I don't have to worry about like being fired out of the blue. And also, like, we can diversify our income streams so much that if one thing falls through one month, like, I'm not worried about it. And there's just so many options for those income streams, like having a shop, having a Patreon, having YouTube like channel memberships. And it's like, it's such a, there's so many options that it's a lot to keep track of. It's kind of like a heavy mental load, which is a totally different topic, but it's really nice to see, like, you don't have to like be making a bunch of money in one place, and it makes me feel a lot more secure. Do you know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah. Like having that diversity means that if you lose one income stream, like you were saying, you still have all the others to keep you afloat.
Yeah.
And so I talk a lot about like sort of business, like making money on my channel for artists, and a lot of beginners, like, they watch my videos and become really intimidated. They're like, you have so many income streams, like, how are you, like how did you start all of this? Where do I begin?
Right.
And I think the key is just building an audience so that you have people to sell stuff to. Like, that's the most important part. And then just building them up one at a time. Like, I spent a weekend making my artist YouTuber workbook, which like guides you through how to start a YouTube channel for artists. And like, once I've made that thing, I can just sell infinite copies of it. Like, there's no limit.
Right.
But just like spending a little bit of time to like make one income stream after another just like really leads you up for success, because then it doesn't have to be like a thing that requires a lot of maintenance. And I think having that kind of like passive income is really important, just to find like, balance. Like, if I had every income stream as an active income stream, like YouTube, where you have to post, and like, I think I would lose my mind. Like, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I would just go crazy.
Yeah. And I think, it seems really intimidating. Like, I know when I was kind of deciding, like, okay, I want to take this seriously, it always felt like, well, maybe like next month I'll take it, like I'll take the last final step to like make this my job, because it does seem really intimidating, and it does seem like there's so many things that you have to be good at, and there's so many different things that you have to know about. And like, if you're just watching, you know, that video and you are kind of still new to it, like, hearing all those things listed is intimidating. But I think when you take things one step at a time, like, it definitely starts with like, especially when we were accidentally stumbled into this, we kind of eased our way into it without knowing it.
Yeah.
Like, you build your audience first, like, at least I did. I don't know about necessarily you, but like, I like had an Instagram where people just happened to follow me, and then that was able to like translate to like other fields, which was able to translate into other fields. And like, it's more of a step-by-step process, I feel like, but it doesn't necessarily, like, when you're thinking about it, like, okay, this is going to be my job, you have this laundry list of things that you need to do, and it seems super intimidating, but really it's like a one, you know, stepping stone to the other. And it's still a little scary, but it's much more manageable than it seems.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and it's so flexible. You can make it exactly what you want it to be. You don't have to do stuff that you don't really like if you can help it. Like, if you don't want to make a Skillshare class, then don't make a Skillshare class.
Right.
If you want to like make Notion templates, make Notion templates. Like, do whatever you want. Like, it can be exactly what you want it to be. And sort of going back to what you were saying about audience growth, I had like no following on Instagram, really. I had like, I don't know, like maybe 1,000 followers on Instagram. It was very small. So I was basically starting from the ground up. It took me like, I think six months to get to 100 subscribers, and then like a year and a half or so to get to 1,000. And then like here we are, like almost at 10K.
Right.
Almost 2 years into my channel. So yeah, it's a long time. Requires a lot of consistency and just like doing it, even though you're really bad at it.
Sure.
Like this podcast episode, for example, we're doing it and we're going to be bad at it, and that's just how it's going to be for the first couple of episodes until we figure our shit out, I guess.
That is actually, that brings up a great point. That's one of my biggest things, like what kept me from really like taking the leap was like the fear of like public failure. Like that I've always hated that. And I think that's something that you really have to embrace. Like I would like launch products and no one would buy them and I'd have to be like, okay, never mind, I actually pretend that didn't happen. And it's really hard to like fully accept like that possibility, but it's a very real possibility and it takes a lot of patience and like you said, a lot of consistency. But I think, and especially if you have like a job and this is like your side job, like a hobby and you're waiting for it to take off, it can be really mentally exhausting. I think it takes a lot of division of mental labor. Like there's so much we could talk about. There's so much that goes into it. Exactly. I think it takes we'll have plenty of podcast episode topics by the end of this one, but it definitely takes being bad at things first. And I think that's something that a lot of people also don't there's a lot of things that there's not much transparency in this at all. And I think a lot of people don't know a lot about it. And one of them is that you're going to be bad at pretty much everything just because you want to start this as a career and you tell people like, hey, this is my job now. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed followers. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed success. There's a lot that goes into it. And I think it's a possibility for literally everyone, regardless of skill level. But I think that there's no guaranteed success and it takes a lot of like patience too is a huge thing that people, I don't think, notice because especially like for you grew so quickly that to the person who followed you when you were at 5,000K and now you're almost at 10,000K, to them it seems like that was super easy for her. She grew so fast, so I should be able to too.
Right, but they didn't see the year that it took me to get to 1,000 subscribers where I was
just waiting. And so when they're like, okay, like how did you do it? I want to do it too. And they have to experience that wait. They're like, well, why did it work for you and not for me? But really like everyone experiences that period of like stagnancy and like waiting. And I'm an exception simply because I didn't go down that route of trying to make it happen, but there are definitely times where like this past year my Instagram, like I think I had a net gain. I expected to like I was at like started or like I think beginning of 2019 2021 I was at 50K and I expected to be at like 75K net. I was at like 52K. Like there's just periods where like everyone sucks that you're failing, and I think a lot of people like don't know that.
Yeah, especially like Instagram right now, it feels like it's much harder to grow because of the pivot to video content. And like people on Instagram, artists especially, we don't want video content on Instagram. Like that defeats the purpose of what made Instagram so fun and easy to post on. Like just one photo, the thing that I made into the void.
Now, exactly. Everything being video content, it's making it so much harder to make content around your art because if it's a photo, you just take a picture of your art and then boom, you're done. But if you have to make a video, it's like, oh my God, I have to film the process. Like every time I want to draw something, it's so exhausting. So I also feel like a lot of people want me to talk about like, how did you grow on Instagram? It's like, none of my advice is relevant anymore.
Yeah, it was a different time. It was a different place. Like it was like a completely different landscape of what Instagram was like, and it's just that it's not like that anymore. No. Yeah, and that's sort of we had a plan.
I know we're totally off topic.
We had a plan. Okay, I want everyone listening to know that we had a plan. We had like a little outline. And then it's not happening. We're talking about Instagram now. That's the episode.
Yep.
But yeah, and that sort of brings us to the discussion of like short form video content too, and like how it differs so much from long form content. Like I hate making short form video content, and like on Instagram Reels especially, it's all the same. It's so repetitive. None of it is original. On TikTok, however, somehow it's a completely different landscape. Somehow the platform has like made things more original, so it's like cooler to do your own thing and like break out of the like the trendy audio mold, but like completely different landscape. And also I just don't like the idea of posting on either of them. But you're also on TikTok and I'm not, so you have different ideas.
Well, to say I'm on TikTok is a bold statement. I have a TikTok and I post. I'm not like, I don't have any sort of following on, I mean, I have like a tiny amount of followers, but I'm certainly not large on TikTok. Every once in a while a video will do well, but I fully agree. I don't like doing short form content. I've been embracing it because it's a great way to grow because that's what they're pushing. But I think it's where art goes to die personally, specifically fine art, traditional art. But speaking of Reels, I had one that blew up. It reached 1 million views, and for no reason. You know the sound that goes ooh that sound.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was just me showing like blank paper and then here's the final product. And it 1 million. And I gained so many followers. I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is weird. Like, why? Yeah. So I did an experiment and I remade the same reel with the same audio, the same thing. And I was like, is it gonna do well just because like every reel is the same? And so far it's doing better than all my other, except for the million. It's growing way better than all my other reels. So I think you're right. Like every reel is the same. Like I see the same 3 audios, and of course there's like trends, and I don't think that's bad, especially artists can definitely benefit from the trends that happen. But oh my god, like I'm so sick of seeing the same reel over and over and over again.
And when everything is trendy, none of it is memorable. Sorry, I'm turning down my gain a little bit on my mic. Yeah, when everything is trendy, like none of it is memorable, none of it sticks with you. Like the cool part of being a content creator is that you can make stuff that like resonates with people, that is valuable, that like there is a point behind it, there is like a thesis statement, there is a reason that you're making it so you can impact someone. But like when everything is trendy and like short form and like disappears in 5 seconds, like it just becomes like this addiction of like you're scrolling but you're not like doing anything, like nothing's happening up here. No thoughts, head empty.
Head fully empty. When I was able to, especially when Instagram was chronological, I had artists that I knew of off the top of my head, and I would check every few minutes to like see when my favorite artist like posted, because I was really excited. Now I never see my favorite artist posts, and when it comes to, I don't even remember things that I see, because it's just the reel of like a split second. It's like more about like the transition than it is seeing the art. I don't even see the art when you look at reels, and it's so frustrating. I really don't follow people from reels because I never get to see the art and decide whether or not I like it. I don't see how. I think it sucks. I think it really sucks for artists.
Yeah, and that's why we're both on YouTube, because YouTube is completely different.
Yep.
I mean, barring YouTube Shorts, which is like a different thing, and also like not really that much of a thing.
It's YouTube Shorts are that's an enigma.
It's like if I were to rank short form video platforms, it would go TikTok, Instagram, and then YouTube for like the reels, and then Shorts. Shorts is like somehow like it's as bad as reels, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
Like, and
what
it's
I
so
don't understand, I know. I'll watch shorts that are at least like a minute long, and I can only post 15 seconds. So I don't know if I'm doing something. I don't know what that's about. But I hate them. I hate that like you could pick a thumbnail for them, but it doesn't show the thumbnail. It still shows the stupid, the weird foggy sides. I hate that. I think that's ugly. It messes up my feed. I have pretty thumbnails. Why can't I see my pretty thumbnails?
Exactly.
I don't get, like, I'm not going onto YouTube. I'm going onto YouTube for, like, an hour-long background noise, not for, like, a really quick, like, watch this celebrity laugh for 2 seconds. Like, I don't care. I hate it.
I'm going on YouTube to watch Quentin Reviews talk about the end of Victorious for 8 hours long.
Yeah.
I am clearing my schedule.
Yes, I'm not like I'm here to have like discussions and like to have my brain, even if brain is still dead on YouTube, it's like longer than I can't even stand like 5-minute long videos. Like it's 12 minutes or longer. And everything being short form. I also, going back to Instagram really fast, like they are the only platform that is just photos. So I don't understand why,
at least before
they were. I don't like they had that monopolized. I don't understand why they would want to pivot from that, because like then who's going to do photos? People still want that. It's so weird to me. I don't understand why we're all doing short form content when long form seems like what's in right now. Like just because TikTok is popular, like people want long form. So
I think like maybe we're just like having a selection bias here, and our experience of the world is just very different from everyone else's. But like for me, the worst part of having to pick, like the worst part of being on YouTube is having to pick a new video.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't like having to pick a new video. Like I want to be entertained for as long as possible.
Yes.
And like 8-hour videos, like like Quentin Reviews, I think, is a little bit of an exception. I don't know if you've watched any of his, like, his super long content, but like it's like
Victorious
8
one.
hours of like thorough analysis.
Yeah.
And like he goes like so deep into it. He'll watch all of the show. He'll watch all of the bonus content. Like he played like both of the Victorious video games and like everything involved with like this show, all of the content. He'll like read like the articles and everything. And it's like such a like a thorough dissection of like the internet culture and like the decline of cable TV, and there's like so much that goes into it. It's just like so entertaining. It's not like you're like sitting and watching someone like play a video game on Twitch for like 8 hours.
Sure.
So yeah, we're good. And I just like love like that long form entertainment, like being able to hang out with someone for like forever. And that to me is like really cool. And even like 8 hours is the extreme, right? But like you take that same premise and you apply it. It's like a 45-minute long studio vlog. I like it when like there's just someone there to keep me company. Like I work from home and like that's really lonely, and it's just nice to be able to like hang out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is it's so weird. It's just so baffling. Like, maybe we are just being super biased. It's so baffling to me as someone who, like, I moved to Florida right before the pandemic, so I didn't get to make any friends. So I'm here with, like, no local friends. I don't, like, with the pandemic, no one can really go outside and see friends anyways that often. We work from home. I'm an artist. I work from home. The only time I leave the house is to go to the post office. Like, I don't socialize. I love having like background noise and feeling like I'm not alone, like all day, every day. And I feel like with the pandemic happening, I feel like, and a lot of people working from home, you'd think that that would be kind of a common experience, and that long form. And for a while, long form was doing really well. I don't know why all of a sudden, I mean, not necessarily all of a sudden, but why like short form is being so pushed right now. Because like, I genuinely, apparently everyone is watching them, because I got 1 million views on mine, so apparently everyone is consuming them. But like, why? I don't understand.
Like, I don't get it. It's so empty. Like, it feels so shallow.
It does.
I want something that like challenges me, that like keeps me entertained, that like fills like this empty void in my head. Like I have like, do you ever have intrusive thoughts when you're like doing something, like where you're like focusing, but then like your brain like wants something else in the background? So for me, my brain is like, hey, Kelsey, like, remember that time that you did this really embarrassing thing like 4 years ago? Let's relive that for a minute, shall we? Yeah, because you're bored. Let's do that. And it's like, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Fully, I do not want to do that. And so it's just nice to have like something in the background to like avoid that moment.
Yes.
And my boyfriend, like, he doesn't get it. He didn't grow up with a TV. So I don't think he's used to like that concept of having background noise.
Right.
So he finds it very distracting when he's home. Luckily, he's out working in the office when I'm here and doing my stuff during the day.
Right.
But like that's like a necessity for me. So I like vociferously consume like TV shows, podcasts, like studio vlogs, and there's just something really nice about long form content, and especially like it's more rewarding to create as a person, as like a creator, because like there's more there. It's more substance, I guess.
For sure. And like, to be clear, like I make the short form content. I don't judge any creator who makes it at all, because like it works, and like if I want this to be my job, I'm gonna make I want to make that coin. Like, I'm gonna do what's trendy.
Don't hit the player, hit the game.
Exactly. Like, there's plenty, I can, off the top of my head, I'm not gonna say any names, but I can think of plenty of like creators who rely a lot on like the short form content to like boost their channel. No shame, that's awesome. Like, make it work for you. I just wish we didn't have to. And also, on the flip side, what's nice about short form content is, you said like it's more rewarding to make long form content, but there's such an obvious turnaround with short form content. Like, I can, like, I made that one reel to replicate the one that did really well. It took me 2 seconds to just make it super fast, and I immediately gained, like, in a day, I gained like 200 followers on Instagram. And so like, it's easy. It's an easy like way to grow. It's easy, it's fast. And like, we're making a YouTube video, making long form content can take hours and hours. And like, when I want to do if you want to do a studio vlog, like it take a month to like make that happen. And that takes a long time, and there's not a guarantee that that's going to do well. And short form is half the time it's guaranteed to do well, and it takes you minutes to do. And so like, that's, I guess I see the appeal to creators, but I don't see the appeal to consumers. I think that's where the cognitive
Yeah.
dissonance is for me.
I agree. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, because as a creator, like, it is easy, but also it's like, I don't know. For me, I think I like making videos. Like, it gives me room to be creative, and like I'm not like beholden to like whatever's trendy right now,
Right.
and also like I'm an oil painter. Like, paintings for me just like take like forever unless I do like something different, like gouache or whatever, which I also do. But like, I don't like oil painting is like my main thing. Like, I like oil painting the most, and like it just takes like weeks, months, sometimes days. Sometimes I'm lucky and it does it. Like, it happens all in one sitting, and that's great. That's a good day. But like, just I can't control that process.
Right,
And so I
for
think I
sure.
like making YouTube videos more because it eliminates that need for me to produce like constantly, like make a new piece for every single one. And for me, that's the unsustainable portion of it. Like, I like long video vlogs more because I've sort of trained myself and my audience not to expect a full finished painting in every video. That does not happen. I think I could count on like maybe like, I think it's in the low dozens or something, like the amount of times that I've finished a painting in a video or like a painting
Right.
process or like a sketchbook spread, whatever. And a lot more of the time, I think I've just left something unfinished. At least like in the video, then we finish it later on, or like in a live stream or like whatever, which a live stream is like a whole other form of content. That's like a very
Right.
different, unique space to be in.
Whole different
Yeah.
beast. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I think that's a great transition to kind of talking our original plan about
Yeah.
talking about like content farming and how content creation destroys the content. I think
Yeah.
it's a great point that you don't finish things in videos, because I do like every video, especially in the beginning when I was very limited to what I could film. I could film what I was working on. Like, that was it. I couldn't really film anything else. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
have like a vlog camera. I was very, very limited in what I could do. And so what I could do was doing a piece, and it basically time-lapsing an entire piece. And so it was definitely directing my content into a very specific direction that I did not want to be pigeonholed into. And it was also just exhausting. It was so exhausting to
Oh, yeah.
like having to plan and execute an entire piece once a week. It was awful. And like, I do that anyway. Like, my things are small. I use quick mediums, but knowing that I was doing it performatively for on a camera, and it had to turn out well, and I had one shot to do it, it is exhausting. It's a really like, and it definitely directs. It like changed the kind of content that I would make, because there would be pieces that I wanted to do, but it would not fit in those constraints, and so I would have to pick something else to do, and I would end up making a lot of content that I was either not making content I wanted to make, not making pieces I wanted to paint, or I was making things that I didn't really necessarily want to do, or I didn't like, or wasn't authentic to me. And I think that's a whole other thing that happens with both short form and long form content, but specifically short form, forcing yourself to do things in a specific time frame. It definitely directs your content into a place that you always can't control.
And it puts
Can't
the
always
pressure
control.
on. It's like, it's very much like, this is the thing that I'm doing, this is the thing that I make, and I have to do this thing. I think the biggest favor I ever did for myself and my content on my channel was to start making videos where I didn't have to make art in them. I was still an artist, still an art channel, but I wasn't making art for the content.
Right.
Like, making videos about like how to grow an audience, like how to create a business plan, how I plan my week, like all of that kind of stuff, still super valuable. Like, there's still a distinct value proposition to that content. There's still an interest. There's still a market for
Absolutely,
it.
yeah.
But like, it doesn't create that same environment. I think that's really,
Right.
really helped me.
Yeah, I think that is super important. I think that's definitely something that people should think about and be aware of when it comes to making art. I think I tried that a few times, and I went down the wrong path necessarily with it. And one thing I was really afraid of was, like, I don't want to shade anyone, but like the videos where it's like trying troom, like, or trying, art hacks, trying like TikTok art hacks. I did not want to go down that path. I didn't want, if I needed a break from art, I didn't want that to be what I had to do.
Yeah.
And I also felt like if I wasn't doing art, like, what value did I bring then? And I think that's an important thing to talk about. Like, now I don't necessarily do it all the time, but if I really need to take a break, I'll do a book video, because that doesn't require doing art.
And I really liked your art book video. It was really fun. You actually
Thank
messaged me
you.
before you did it, because I did mine a couple weeks earlier, and you were like, Kelsey, am I going to like steal your idea? And I was like, no.
Is it okay? Yeah,
Don't worry about it. It was good. I really liked it.
Well, good. I'm glad. I had so much fun making it, and like taking time like that is like making videos like that are really, they're fun. Just like sitting there and talking and like really getting to like think about your thoughts and express your thoughts. Like this is fun.
It's a different kind of creativity involved in that.
Yes.
And like it's really fun to be able to plan out like the shot list and like the cinematography, like the content. Like making videos is a whole different art form. Like I would consider myself an artist on two fronts, both like as a content creator and as like a visual artist. Like paintings and stuff. Like I guess visuals also like videos too. But like that completely different areas where you can both be really creative and have a lot of fun with it. I think it's important to like be able to find joy in that process, because especially when you're starting out, you're going to be making a lot of videos for a long time, and you should really learn how to have fun with it.
Yes. That's yeah, I think like learning how to have fun, and going back when we said like you're gonna have like that year of like no growth.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are frustrated by it. I think that's a great time too. Like you're not gonna know exactly what you're doing right away. Have fun. Experiment,
Exactly.
you know, do dumb things, like figure out what kind of like format works for you, and you know, figure out what kind of like equipment you want to use. I think that's a great time, because I like starting with an audience, because I had like a period where I was sporadically posting on YouTube, and I posted a sketchbook tour which like blew up. So I had a significant audience for a beginner, like for literally starting my channel, and I felt like there was no room for failure, and I felt like I had to make the same kind of videos. And like recently I've been trying to change my content a little bit, because I've gotten like a vlog camera and I can do more things, and I've not largely, but I've had some audience members be like, do what you normally do. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that every week. That's exhausting. Having that time to like really like figure out what different paths do you want to take, because you don't have to just do one, is I think really, really valuable. And I think people should take advantage of that.
Yeah, and especially like for me at least, when I'm thinking about my content calendar and the kind of videos that I want to make every month. Like right now, for example, I'm working on my March content calendar because it's the beginning of the month and I still have like stuff to figure out about the next couple weeks. And that's what like where sponsors come into, which is a completely different conversation as well. But I try to sort of balance it out. So if I'm doing like one really like effortful challenge video, like right now I'm drawing 100 heads for a video, and I don't draw faces, I don't draw heads.
Right.
Like portraiture, very new for me, so I'm drawing 100 of them for like the next couple of days, and I post that like next week, probably like next Thursday, because I just like need more time.
Are you doing Med's 100 heads, or are you just doing your own?
I'm doing my own 100 heads. Like I have like a different,
okay, gotcha.
Because I wanted like a more unique, like diverse set of like faces, and like I have things that I like about reference photos, like really strong shadows and stuff is like a thing that I find really valuable. So I picked out my own, but I'm doing that, and like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's so much work. If I did something like that every single week, that would lead to like instant burnout. I would
for sure.
No, thank you. So I have to build in that like less effortful, it's not less creative, but it does take like less creative energy to make like an art book video or like a tips video or like a Notion walkthrough or something. And for me, like I put those types of videos in my content calendar in the areas where I know that like I need a little bit more of a break. Like if I'm moving across the country, which I did recently when I moved to New York City in August, or if I'm like doing like a fun weekend trip, like I try to build that into my content calendar so like I can like, stay consistent but not like burn out. And I think there's a very fine line, and it's its own art form really when it comes to sort of balancing that.
Oh god, yeah. For sure. And I think that also is a great time. That year of no growth is a great time to figure out that balance, because it definitely absolutely takes a balance, especially I think with art. I think I'm biased. I think artists have a specifically hard time being content creators, because it's not just creating the content, it's creating the content and it's creating the art that goes into the content. And
especially
that is
when your art is your content.
Exactly. It takes like hours, and it's hard. It's like really, it's hard. It takes a lot of mental energy. And then on top of that, you have to set up all the camera shots and do an edit and whatever. And I feel like it leads to burnout really, really, really quickly. And I feel like taking that year or any amount of time to figure out when to do that and when not to do that is so vital, because it adds to like the sustainability of you as a creator. And I have to, like you, I have to plan like, okay, I want at least one like good effort video a month at least. And sometimes I'm busy that month and that's the only one, and sometimes I'm not, and I can kind of like do two and like stagger them. And it can be hard to, you have to like move stuff around. That can be really hard. It's a whole thing that you have to learn about yourself and your limits and like what you can do. And as you get better, like that changes, and like dealing with like schedule changes, it's like tough. It's tough.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's a balancing act for sure. Like when I tried to do 3 videos a week in December, God, that was a nightmare. And that really was a huge crash course in like figuring out, okay, exactly how long does a video take for me to like shoot, edit, like
for sure,
brainstorm, like script write. And I did a lot of sit down videos in that month, and that's like what kept me afloat. That's like what led me do that challenge. Even though I didn't succeed, I didn't actually post like every 3 days or whatever. But like that for me like was key. It was so important. And having that nice mix of the content that doesn't take as long to produce, where you can actually like take that like mental break and not force yourself to be on all the time as an artist is super, super valuable. Like I honestly don't know where I would be without it. And that sort of comes back to like that first year. Like I think what I would tell people is to just like fully expect to be nowhere like after your first year. Your first year is your audition for YouTube.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, for sure.
That is you
It's
like
a great
practicing how to do the thing. That is like the rehearsal dinner, or like just like practice before you start really taking it seriously, and like just fully imagining that you're not really going to get very far is I think will put you in the right mindset. There are, of course, creators recently like Ashley King and Valerie Lynn that have like sort of blown up out of like quote unquote like nowhere. Like they went right out of the gate with really good content and have, you know, been sort of like semi-viral hits, have just really, really succeeded and taken off. And like, fingers crossed we'll be able to get them on the podcast so we can pick their brains. So I have no idea how they did that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like the exception to the rule. And I think that gives a lot of people the wrong impression that it's like really easy to do, but it doesn't happen that often. Like I find every day, I mean, half of my subscribers are small creators, like really small creators who are trying to make it happen. For every person that it's such a saturated market that it seems like a lot of people are blowing up, but for every person that blows up, there's like 500 people there's probably like 10,000 people that aren't blowing up. I think that seeing those people like blow up, I think it's a good reminder it's good to remind people that is the exception. Like that is very likely not going to happen to you. You're not going to blow up overnight, and you should embrace that. Blowing up overnight is not sustainable, and it's scary. And sometimes people get lucky, and like Valerie Lynn, like I'm sure she's going to have a great long career, but it's not always the case. Like that's not what you should strive for. What you should strive for is like that slow, steady growth, because that's going to be like a much more sustainable option.
Oh, for sure. And it like puts you in it gives you time to find the right headspace and the right mentality. And when you're like thrust into the deep end by going viral, like I have no idea. I've never done that before, but I can only imagine like the pressure you must feel like for the upload after, and like the one after that. And like the whole thing about being a creator on YouTube is that sometimes you go through seasons where like your videos are 10 out of 10. So like on YouTube, you get like a little dashboard of like this latest video and how it ranks according to like your last 10 videos, and sort of if it's number 1 it means it's the best, and if it's number 10 it means it's the worst out of recent uploads. And there are like right now, for example, I'm in a time right now where like a lot of my videos are like 5 and lower.
Yep. Same.
And sometimes like 2 months before this, they were all like 1 out of 10 every single time. I was like constantly re-upping myself, like doing better than I had before in terms of performance. And like immediately after, it was like 10 out of 10. The worst. Try harder. And that
it sucks to see
disheartening.
That number. Yeah. It's really hard. And that's just like an inevitability. Like one thing, having to deal with that reality is so, so hard. And I think that goes back to virality is not sustainable, and it gets your hopes so high that like, oh my God, like, and it especially when it happens for like a few videos in a row, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to blow up. This is gonna be it for me. This is crazy. Like this is it. And then like the next video is like 10 out of 10. And you're like, oh God, no, it's not. Like this sucks. But there's always you're gonna fail sometimes. Like you have to, especially if you're making a video every week for the entire year.
You cannot like double subscribers like every whatever months. Like that is literally impossible long term. Like, the entirety of the planet cannot be subscribed to your
Cannot be
YouTube channel.
subscribed to
There
you.
comes a point where it's just physically impossible to keep growing.
Exactly. And like there's always gonna, and you can't put that energy in every month. Even if it was a video that you didn't put energy in, that kind of energy in general in the universe cannot happen every week. And like there's gonna be times that you just make a bad video, or like there's a bad week for you, and that's like a huge inevitability that you like have to accept. And I think that's where like the virality thing really can mess with you, because like I've put out like sketchbook tours, and the sketchbook tour will do, not necessarily viral, but for me it'll go viral. And then the pressure that puts on you for like the next video is like, it's hard. And then that makes it so much more disappointing when it inevitably doesn't do as well. And it's this huge mental game. And there's so much that goes into it all. That's like this weird war of positive and negative all the time. And you end up feeling like so weird all the time.
I think like the best way to do this is to leverage the content that you eventually learn is going to do well, is going to be a top performer, wisely. Like, not having all of those kinds of videos all the time, because you don't want it to be really repetitive. You don't want to like bore your audience out because like, hey, she's only talking about one thing ever, and that's kind of boring. Like, people want diversity in topics and presentation and format, and that's like where I like to get really creative with the kind of videos that I make, like studio vlogs, tip videos, like speed paints, whatever. And like, I know for a fact that videos where I talk about money or how to make money always do well. Always.
Right.
Like, be it in the short term or the long term, sometimes like they will always be top performers on my channel, but I don't make them all the time. Because I don't have enough to talk about where I can make them all the time. Like, I would eventually run out of things to say, and I want to like spread this out as much as possible, so that when I do have something to say, it is like of value, there is substance there. And so I only make a video like that when like I have something to, like an actual point to make. And that is like only occasionally. Like, I think in January or early February, I posted a video talking about like how much money I'm making, and I didn't really have a lot going on like the past like month or so, but I'm going to have a lot going on like the next month. So like, I'm going to make a sequel to that video, you know, in like April or something. And that for me is like a much more, like, it makes more sense, like leveraging the content that you know is going to do well, so that like you're not making that kind of video all the time, but you're still taking advantage of the rewards it could bring you. Yeah,
for sure. I think that's another part of the learning curve that takes like time for you to figure out for yourself, because that's something that I'm working on right now, is like something I've kind of realized for myself for this year is, as my videos have been doing really, really poorly, I've had this mentality of like, you know what, I'm just going to make the video I want to make, and if it bombs, it bombs, because soon I will be putting out a sketchbook tour, and I know the sketchbook tour will save me. And I kind of had this realization that like, you know, you get a monthly YouTube check, and you want that check to be good. So one thing I realized is like, if instead of every time I have a good idea, making that video and letting it like all the views congregate and doing one really, really good month, and then letting the next month I'll inevitably tank. Instead of doing that, taking all my really good ideas and parsing them out over like every month, and having one video that I'm confident will do well every month. And that way, you know, even if all the other videos tank, there's still some money that is made that month, and there's some growth that happens that month, instead of using up all my good ideas at once. And that way, like, there's some sort of like guarantee that like each month will do well. And beyond that, I'm working on like doing a sketchbook every few months. And so that way, every quarter of the year I have a sketchbook tour. So that way, like, smart. Each quarter like kind of does a little bit better. And so I'm definitely, I think that's like a really good point that I in the beginning never ever would have thought about until I experienced kind of a few years of like the growth on YouTube and how the analytics reflect. That's something I never would have thought about, is like parsing out, like spacing out your good content and not exhausting yourself and your audience. It is such a learning curve.
For me, at least, the thing that helps me, like, you're talking about like really good videos is like a spike on the graph, right? Their performance is higher than average. The thing for me that helps me like sort of level that graph so it's not as spiky is with search-driven content, like evergreen-focused content that like ranks for like a certain keyword in YouTube search. That helps me sort of level that graph a little bit, and at least in my experience, making search-driven content that does really well, like for a long time, sort of proves itself to the algorithm, has a higher probability of performing really well in browse features, which is where the like the majority of views on YouTube come from. So for our listeners who don't know, views on YouTube come from a variety of places. You have search, which is like when you type things into the search bar, obviously. Then you have browse features. That's stuff like the videos on your homepage and your suggestions, like sort of all of that. And then you also have videos sort of directly, like from a direct link that you get, you know, like your friend texts you a video, be like, hey, watch this.
External sources,
like
yeah.
a horse scaring a dog in the woods, or like whatever that video was about. But and then you have like views that come directly from your channel page, and that sort of is going to be low at first because no one's watching your channel. And so the advice that I at least give to new creators is like focus on the search. It's like it's gonna help you find your people, especially when you sort of know who your audience is and you have a good idea of like the kind of terms that you want to target and what your audience is interested in, and then like you can do better in browse and whatever. That's sort of like the Kelsey patented technique for slow growth, because it is not a recipe for like viral success.
Right.
But it is sort of the recipe for what we were talking about earlier, which is like slow, sustainable growth that will help you sort of find your place without freaking out.
Right. Yeah, I think, do you want to define what you mean exactly by like search-based content?
Yeah, so I would not define studio vlogs as search-based content. Studio tours, however, for example, are being searched for. Like, one of the top performers on my channel right now is a video titled A Realistic Studio Tour, aka I didn't clean before, and also it's my living room, where I just like show people like an inside look into like what my space looks like not the space that you're seeing behind me, but like the space that I'm looking at right now because I'm at my desk. But yeah, so, and that was like a search term that I researched using TubeBuddy, which is like a Chrome extension for YouTube that helps you look at various keywords and sort of like, it helps you analyze like whether or not you can actually rank for that keyword. I have some videos talking about this on my channel. I'm not going to get into like the nitty-gritty specifics, but basically it's like you have this keyword, people are searching for it, so there's volume there in terms of like traffic, and you have like a competitive edge of like, okay, either no one has covered this in a way that you can cover it, or like there aren't quality videos on the topic, and then there's like a gap in the market that you can fill with your video. And so that's like sort of what I try to do with my strategy, at least, trying to sort of, like, ideally I want a member of my ideal audience, the people that I want to reach, to like have a search on YouTube, and I want one of my videos to be in that search, whatever they're looking for. I want to be there somehow. And so that means like doing a lot of search focused evergreen videos that don't have as short of a lifespan, because people will always be searching for that content. So it's not like timely, for example, it's not trendy, but it is guaranteed to do well over a course of like months, years, maybe even decades or something. I don't know.
Right. I think, yeah, so I wanted to make sure people know exactly what you're talking about, because it can be a little vague, like if you don't know terms. I think, talking about filling the gap is like a great way to like look at what kind of content you want to make. I think another great thing is like my sketchbook tours always do really well, because sketchbook tour is a hugely searched term, like all the time.
Yeah.
And finding those terms that, so you're talking about filling the gap, but finding terms that just people plow through the content of, like sketchbook tours. If you're searching sketchbook tour, you're clicking on a playlist and you're watching like dozens of sketchbook tours, or you're looking with a really pretty like thumbnail. So finding things that you don't even necessarily need to fill the gap, but finding things that like you can just shove it in with everything else, I think is also a great way to go. Because not everyone, like, search-based content is so important. Clearly it's working really well for you. I think like, especially in the beginning, I wasn't doing, it's not like I was giving necessarily like advice all the time. Art block is a great term, and I would kind of talk about that every once in a while, but a lot of my like content was focused around art. And I feel like if you don't necessarily feel like you have things to talk about, finding those types of videos that you can just like jam your stuff into, like studio tours. That's a great way that you don't really need to have something to say, and you can still kind of find people that are interested in what you do.
But I also think a lot more people have things to say than they think.
For sure. For sure.
Like our journey right now that we're in, people are really interested in this. Like how to become an artist. Like how does sales tax work? Like how do I file my taxes? How do I like set prices for my artwork? And like just by virtue of doing the thing and experimenting and like gaining this really valuable experience of like doing it ourselves, we have stuff to talk about. I mean, that's what this podcast is. Like, we have stuff to talk about. Yeah. And we're not like experts, but we're one step ahead of a lot of people watching this podcast right now. And that means that we have just a lot of like very front of mind lived experience to share that we might not have like 10 years from now, because like exactly what you were saying earlier, like I want to break this down through what you're talking about because people like don't know terms. Like I am so ingrained in like the keyword like research world that like I need someone to be like, I don't understand that, like what do you mean? Because like I just assume that there's this like base of knowledge a lot of people maybe don't have. And a lot of like art professors, for example, will just assume that you know what you're doing, or that you have like this foundational like sort of this foundation of knowledge, and then maybe you don't have that. So someone one step ahead of you might be like a far better teacher and have more practical feedback than like an expert. Right,
for sure. Sorry, for a second I got paranoid about my camera still recording. Okay, we're good. Okay, good. Yeah, I fully, like, I think I thought about that too, about how like if we were to ask someone who was a couple of years ahead of us and had like a huge following, even how like my advice on Instagram is not relevant anymore because I already have an audience. I'm not trying to grow an audience right now. It's not relevant. And so people who are farther ahead of you, like I think if we were to interview Valerie Lynn, she would have some amazing things to say, but would she have things that would apply to someone who has had 500 subscribers for a year? Like probably not. And I think being on an organic trajectory and being in the middle of it right now, where, you know, we might fail in a year's time and we might not end up anywhere, or we might end up like in the middle of a really great career, is I think really super valuable. And I don't think there's a lot of there kind of is, but there kind of isn't, like of mid-level content creators who are really talking about the work that they're doing actively to be in the middle.
And like, by the very nature of sort of time and growth, we're not going to be here forever. Like, this is a very temporary state. But also it's like, of course it is. Like, the advice that we have right now, that we're giving out right now, is good that it's given right now, because it's not going to be relevant 5 years from now, exactly what you're saying, because we're going to be at different levels of our careers. Like, the landscape of the whole community is going to be really different. So, like, there is sort of an innate, like, timeliness to the content that you're making, too. But also it's, I think, valuable to chronicle your journey from the beginning to, like, wherever you end up, just because, like, then you're leaving a blueprint. And no matter how the landscape changes, like, there's going to be, like, little, like, pieces of knowledge there that people can look at and analyze and try and, like, deconstruct. Like, I look at, like, I don't know, like, Lee's journey on YouTube and, like, how her videos have changed and progressed and evolved over time. Yeah. It's, like, it's interesting to look at. Like, where did she start? When I look at new creators, sometimes I just, like, I sort by, like, the oldest, because I want to see, like, what was your very first video? Like, I want that,
Who were you back then?
Yeah, like, I want to know who you were in the beginning, but I also, like, I like being able to watch someone's really first, like, bad video. So I can watch their newest video, and I can be like, holy shit, like, they've grown so much, and that makes it so much more relatable.
Yeah, I think I fully agree. I think it's kind of fun when you... we keep using Valerie Lynn as an example, but she's such a good example.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at her first video, it's amazing. Her first video is it's like a hit. It's perfect. Like, it's literally perfect. But in like a year's time, I guess she's already kind of been on the platform for like a year. In a few years, like, if you look back, like, there's such a satisfying thing about seeing someone grow on a platform, seeing them like really like learn. And starting off with, she's doing great. This is not shade, but like, I think there's something fun about being able to go back to someone's like first video and see that, like, they are just like me. They made their art was kind of bad, and their video was really bad, and they didn't know how to edit, and they were really awkward and quiet. It's kind of fun to see that, like, first of all, anyone can do it, and you don't need to have like a great camera to be successful, but also that, like, they are... that, like, it's more inspirational, like, it's more relatable to be like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, like, then you can sort of point to those comments that you're going to inevitably get where, like, oh, like, Kelsey, you seem like such a natural, like, your content is so good, like, how did you get to be this good? And it's like, have you seen my first video? Have you seen it?
Right.
It was garbage. I was filming it on my phone. I was trying to edit on a 2013 MacBook Air.
Ooh.
It was
Not good.
It sounded like it was trying to take off, like in flight.
Oh, yeah.
How hard the fans were running. And it's like, I'm this good because I've had so much to practice. Like, I've had so much time, I've had so much repetition, and I've spent, like, maybe thousands of hours at this point in front of a camera, just, like, talking or, like, recording. And a lot of it, people just, like, never see. Like, there is so much that I can cut out. There are so many mistakes that I just, like, edit. Even this podcast, for example, like, we're going to be editing this podcast.
Yeah.
Or I guess I am. But, like, we're going to be editing this podcast to, like, cut out all the parts where, like, we're talking about, like, camera malfunctions. Or, like, did my audio, like, weird out for a second? Is my Wi-Fi still working? Like, and there's, like, this opportunity to edit how you're perceived. Mm-hmm. And total topic shift. But that is sort of a really weird aspect of live streaming, because you can't do that on live streaming. Like, you're live, and it's so much weirder to go from, like, a YouTuber who, like, I have the opportunity to edit to, like, a streamer than it is the reverse, I think. Like, I've been trying to stream lately, and it's really weird.
Yeah. At the lack of sounding like dumb, like I get like an adrenaline rush. Do you know what I mean? Like when I'm like, you're just so, I'm nervous. I get so nervous and I get an adrenaline rush. And like sometimes
you're active, you're on.
Yes. And like sometimes I'll say stuff that I'm like, should I have said that? Like in the stream that you were like talking with me in, I was talking about Creepshow art, and someone said something like, is this illegal? And I was like, maybe I should not have talked about this at all.
Like, people are making like videos all the time about Creepshow art and the controversy
all the
like,
time,
like dissecting it and like whatever. And obviously it's terrible what they did to Emily, and like that's a whole different topic.
Yes.
But yeah.
Whole different topic. And like no one was gonna see my stream anyway, so like no one was gonna like sue me. But for a second I was like, oh my god, like have I said anything wrong? Have I said anything bad? And it can be really, because you can't edit that out. And like sometimes like I literally will not be aware of what I'm saying, because like I will be like so hyper. Like I was probably acting really weird in that stream, because you get so hyper. I like will, because you're worried about like you have to be entertaining the entire time. Like if there's this awkward like dead space, or you're like trying to find something to talk about, and I get like super like giggly and like weird, and it's scary. It's really scary, because it's like what if you like, I curse a lot, and then I'll be like, oh, should I be cursing? And then I'm like, is it weird that I'm not cursing? And it's like, it's just, there's like just thinking, so much,
like, so many layers deep of the performance that you're putting in front of your audience, and like the meta performance, and then like the performance of the meta performance, and it's like,
and then you're thinking so hard, all that comes out of your mouth is like you sound so stupid. It's a really, streaming is super hard. It's super hard, and it takes so much extra brain power if you start with filming, because you can't edit yourself. And it's not like I'm gonna do anything crazy, but it's like, you know, it takes me 1,000 takes just to say my name. It's hard.
Yeah. Like my brain, my thoughts move so fast. I stumble over my words constantly. I will fully use the incorrect word, thinking to myself I used the correct one in conversation. Then my boyfriend will be like, why did you ask me to hand you the mattress? And then I'm like, I didn't say that.
No. Yeah, it's...
Like, what are you talking about? I asked you to hand me the can opener, and then it's like, that did not come out of your mouth. And I'd be like, well, shit.
Sorry.
You're just like, you're thinking about that the whole time. You're thinking about like stuttering, like you're hyper aware of how your tongue is moving in your mouth, and it's like so much. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It's a lot.
Being a content creator and an artist. And that's what we're going to be talking about on this podcast, basically, for however long we want to. And we might have guests on at some point, and that'll be really fun, I think. We were talking about this before we started recording, but we actually maybe have a guest already lined up. And once we have this episode done, I might DM them on Instagram, see if they want to be on the podcast soon. But yeah, if you are a content creator, you want to be on the podcast, email us.
Let us know. We have an email that'll be linked down. Everything will be linked down below.
Everything is in the description.
Yes,
so full
you can definitely contact us and contact us and like link your like Instagram or whatever you have, and we'll check you out. And we would love to. I want to hear everyone's perspective, because I feel like the more transparent this field becomes, like everyone will benefit. So I want to get as many people on here as possible. I want to hear as many perspectives as possible. I'm really excited to get to know more creators.
Yeah, and leave us comments in the description. Comments are actually the fuel that we need to make more podcast episodes. We don't eat normal food. content creators actually only consume likes and comments. That's actually it's a very niche fact. It's not well known or publicized in the community, but I actually fully subsidize and fully live off of comments that I get.
Yeah, it's almost like photosynthesis, except it'll make me feel really bad if you're mean to me.
Sorry. Also subscriptions too. Subscriptions, that's like a really chunky meal, like a really satisfying savory meal.
Yeah.
Like when you spend all day hungry and then you have food for the first time and you're like, oh my god, this is so satisfying.
Yeah. It's like
that's what subscriptions feel like. And fun fact, if the button is red right now, if you push it, it will turn gray.
That's exciting. Gray. That's fun. And shares are like a really good dessert. And it's like it's like the most satisfying possible dessert you've ever eaten. Basically, like, support us to feed us. And if you don't, like, you are making us starve. Which is the title of the podcast. We're not supposed to be starving. So, it's kind of on you.
I had to fully back away from the microphone. Okay, that was the first episode of the Make Art Don't Starve podcast.
We hope you enjoyed.
Goodbye.
Bye.